It took 2 years for us to get pregnant with Katie, and we were just so grateful to get her, and she completed our family.
Katie Ashley was just 6 weeks old when her parents Amy and Gary noticed something was wrong.
She was breathing real hard and heavy, and it was like that.
Katie looked like she was struggling trying to breathe. She looked like she was having a lot of trouble.
They rushed Katie to the ER, where doctors discovered she had an accelerated heart rate. She was sent to the ICU and diagnosed with SVT, supraventricular tachycardia, a condition caused by electrical defects in her heart.
And so I went to the floor, and the big doors opened up, and he was standing there and just white and eyes huge, and he said, "She's not breathing." So I rushed to her room, and there she was, just tiny, white, pale as a ghost. And the nurse had already started CPR on her, and it just knocked the breath out of me. We prayed, from the gut, begging God to please save her, please send our baby back. And it was just unimaginable. But we held on to hope, and we kept praying.
Dr. Athos Colon, a pediatric cardiologist, also performed CPR on Katie.
Technically, Katie was dead. She was asystolic. That means the heart wasn't beating, and that lasted quite a long time.
Word spread among friends and family that Katie was fighting for her life. Amy's cousin Moose rushed to the hospital.
During all the chaos and all the commotion, and I just felt an urge to go down to the sanctuary there in the hospital, and just as clear as day, I heard God said, "Katie's not going to go today. Today's not her day."
For over an hour and a half, the doctor and his team continued CPR on Katie's lifeless body.
They had done CPR for so long, and she still wasn't coming back. So when we was sitting outside the doorway, Katie's dad and I discussed calling off the code. At that point in time, it was just torture for her little body.
Normally, we do that for about half an hour, and normally after that, we consider the brain to have suffered and we stop. But for some reason, Katie, we kept going.
And then we heard him say it. She has a heartbeat. And she was alive.
We still wasn't out of the woods, and we knew it, but it was a lot of hope, that it could, possibly be that she could possibly be okay.
Katie was alive, but would require surgery for her heart condition. And how the trauma affected her brain was still unknown.
We thought that we had saved her alive, but probably the brain was damaged.
There was probably a 70% chance that Katie would have severe brain damage, to the point that she would be unable to function. I left the ICU, and I went outside, and I sat on a bench, and I just cried. I was so grateful to God for giving her back, but at the same time, I was still so devastated.
Amy's best friend Judy started a Facebook page asking for prayer on Katie's behalf.
We got responses from all over the country. We got responses from outside of the country. We had prayer chains from, I would say, 1,000 churches. It was amazing.
After 48 hours, Katie's condition improved, and doctors were able to implant a pacemaker. Amy remembers the day Katie was put back in her arms.
It was better than holding your baby for the very first time, to be able to hold her again. Because there for a little while, we wasn't sure we was going to be able to hold her again.
After 12 days in the hospital, Katie returned home. Today, she is a healthy, active 5-year-old with no signs of brain damage.
If there's something called a miracle, this is one of them, because That part I cannot explain. How can her brain survive so intact? Every time I see her, I call it my miracle kid.
She was definitely a miracle from God. I mean, she went from a total lifeless person to a thriving, happy young girl now.
She plays softball and she dances. It's so smart. When I see her scar, it reminds me of how blessed we are. And I used to say that it was God's fingerprint. I realized later that the fingerprint's inside her heart.